Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant, and I love Canadian immigration for all its good and the bad and the evil and the positives. It's so exciting, right? I mean, of course, from my side, it's very exciting. For a lot of you out there, it's absolutely frustrating, annoying, but it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us going. And with all these changes, what it also does is that it leaves us with a glimmer of hope, the glimmer of excitement, right? That maybe now something better can happen. Some changes will happen which will work out more in your favor, and that is what we all look forward to. December express entry draws went dry. When I'm saying went dry, I mean, of course, there was a draw, but not most of what most of you wanted. There was a French proficiency draw. And then January, we were all worried whether the draws will happen, whether it will not happen, etc., because on the 23rd of December, Mark Miller had announced LMIA points will be removed in the spring, right? So with that happening, all of, Reddit, Twitter, forums, chat groups, WhatsApp groups, they were all buzzing with the fact that express entry draws will not happen until spring. What people always forget is not taking into account the precedents. Sibling points were introduced, French proficiency points were introduced, and with that, the impacts have always happened. Also, history lesson, right? For some of you out there who might be interested, history lesson. So when the lowest ever express entry draw was on the 31st of... So when I'm saying lowest ever, please take that with a pinch of salt, because I'm not referring to the 75 CRS score. I'm talking about general category. I'm talking about FSW included, right? So at the time when express entry was not category based, was not, all that, there were no different fragments of it. So that was a time when regular draws used to happen. There was no PMP specific, there was no CEC specific, there were no categories itself. So 31st of May 2017 was the lowest express entry draw. And that was, I think, at 413. Now, when the draw happened at 413, there were so many people who got very excited because they all started expecting that the next draw should be at 49, 4010, 408, lower 400s. There were agents in India who even took out full page advertisements in certain big publication news saying that Canada absolutely will invite you. You can apply with even the lowest of scores and credentials. But what then happened is nobody then expected. The 6th of June, that was a week later, is when the impact happened for the sibling points. Okay, that's 2017. Sibling points, 15 points that you can now get 15 points for your sibling if the sibling is PR or citizen. It happened on 6th of June. That was implemented then. And you would also get French proficiency scores, additional scores for French proficiency. Second language is French. That happened on 6th of June. Now, this is where, as I was saying, history tells us that express entry system went into a tizzy, right? It could not handle those changes very well at the back end, and they couldn't conduct any more express entry draws. Because of these changes, they had to let everybody know, and when people were making those changes, the profiles were becoming ineligible, the system was crashing. So they didn't conduct the draw for the remainder of the month. The month of June, the draws did not happen. And when they did happen end of June, eventually, the scores were very high, 440s or something, or 438 or something, and the scores never really went down. They never really saw the 408s, the 409s kind of a thing. And score then continued to climb, 430s and 440s, and then it went to 50s and 60s. And of course, as you know, as I say, rest is history. Similar things have happened again. Whenever IRCC had to stop with the draws because they had to accommodate the changes, the scores have gone bonkers, right? It has happened during COVID as well. Then after COVID, when they stopped the draws again, we've seen that. The knock code changes in 2022, when they changed the knock code from 2016 to 2021 with a 5-digit knock code. Again, there was a huge gap of a month and a half. Again, the draws didn't happen, so problems. The moral of this whole long story that I'm trying to tell you is that at this point of time, at least I was not expecting any draws to be held back because there was no reason to. Whatever changes that are happening in express entry, they are happening at the back end. So techies and all, you would understand back end, front end, right? And they didn't have to be rolled out until everything was robust. At least that's what they tell us. So the only time you will see a problem with express entry, and you can mark my words on this one, is when they actually implement these changes in express entry. that is the time I expect the system to go into a bit of a turmoil, probably go into a glitch, and you will then see a big gap of draws. So if the LMIA points are removed, and whenever they are removed, we don't know that, right? LMIA points. So when we keep saying LMIA points, but actually it's supposed to be the job offer points. And a lot of people have this question, will the LMIA exempt also get the points, or will the points be removed? So at this point of time, we just have to assume that both LMIA and LMIA exempt, both of you guys will probably lose the points. Not fair to some of you. Well, fair in the big scheme of things, because admin assistants, food services supervisors, retail supervisors, these LMIAs, to be very honest, never really made sense. Again, I mean, you can't say that you can't find people in Canada to do this job who are permanent residents or citizens. But by and large, this whole discussion or debate about LMIAs and the points, it obviously is going to be unfair to some, but if you see in the big scheme of things, well, I guess the fraud had to be taken out. And the only way to do this was, in this case, amputate the whole arm or leg or whatever you want to call it. So at this point of time, since there is lack of clarity, and again, because there are, in my opinion, system restriction, because in the system itself, the express entry system, to change the points system, they would have to do certain things. And because the way the system has been designed, in my opinion, I feel that even if they don't want to remove the points for the LMIA exempt, they probably will have to, because of the system conditions or the way the system operates. But in the meantime, people who have the advantage, whether you have the LMIA, whether you are LMIA exempt, and this is more in terms of the LMIA exempt. IRCC, as of today, has not clarified that these LMIA points will be only for the LMIA, this arranged employment points, 50 or 200, is it only for the LMIAs or is it also for the LMIA exempt? That clarity has not been received. The only thing is that the IRCC website said that the job offer points will no longer be valid, right? The job offer. Now, the job offer is with LMIAs as well as LMIA exempt, as you all know. Recent video came up where Mark Miller was interviewed. I'm not sure if you have seen it. I can always show that to you, where he said that that he doesn't need to go to the parliament to remove these points. And I'm just trying to see if I can find that video quickly for you.
You don't need to go to parliament to remove the 50 points for the MIA. That's coming in the spring. I would say, because I have significant discretion, perhaps not as much as people think, a lot of the decisions that I take do not need me to go to parliament. Sometimes
by no means should we accept it that it is only going to be 50 points. As of right now, we will have to assume that this is going to be for all. Assume. When I'm saying assume, and I'm quoting that again over my head, is because this is a clarity which no one has. And the last advisory that came from IRCC, it spoke about arranged employment, it spoke about job offer points, and that would go for LMIAs and LMIA exempt. So at this point of time, you should assume and prepare for the worst, that yes, it's going to be LMIAs and LMIA exempts who will lose points come spring. Now, spring is a funny thing. Spring comes after every winter, of course, but spring starts officially, the spring starts on 20th of March. I don't know why it starts on 20th of March, because Canada is nowhere close to spring on 20th of March. So the season of spring is from the 20th of March until 20th of June. 21st of June is the first day, official day of summer. But so that's the spring period. Now, I do not know when will the changes be implemented, as in on which date onwards you can no longer have points. But please do remember that if you do have the points, and if you do get invited, and even if you get invited before that date, even if you have received your invitation, even if you have submitted your application, your points will remain valid. So that's another factor to consider. Well, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for joining in. I shall do this again very soon. Until such time, stay forever hopeful and stay positive, of course.